Hi friends. So yes, the much awaited 2025-26 UEFA Champions League final is over. One team had to have the elation and celebration and one had to go despondent and heartbroken. Unfortunately, it was the turn of PSG to again feel the ecstasy and the celebration that they had felt last year, because they could replicate the glory of last year. They could replicate the achievement of last year to defend the Champions League once again, whereas Arsenal had to realize that they will go one more year without fulfilling their ultimate dream of having European glory. Yes, 20 years back they had heartbreak against Barcelona when they lost the Champions League final, and this time around their invincible team in the Champions League season, which had gone unbeaten till the time they reached the final, they had to again face the heartbreak of losing the final. Strictly speaking, they still were unbeaten because they could not be beaten in normal time or extra time. But ultimately, it is the cruel ritual of a tiebreaker and penalty shootout which decided the crown, and it went against Arsenal. And look at the irony. The irony of that two players who have been instrumental in taking them to the final and helping them to win the Premier League this season, two towering personalities were the personalities who turned villains instantly during the shootout. That is the vagaries of a penalty shootout, that heroes can turn into villains and villains can turn into heroes. Yesterday, when AG missed the penalty, it seemed that Arsenal's back, they were back, they're back to the wall and they were not in great condition. But then Raya in goal saved a brilliant spot kick from Nuno Mendes to bring them back to the contest. But in the final shot of the normal penalty shootout, it was the turn of Gabriel to kick it wide, and with that, a million hearts were broken, and Arsenal, their fans, their players were left devastated as they could see that their hand were taken out, snatched, the cup was snatched away from them, and they lost that tie-break 3-2, and they lost the match. And once again, PSG, under the charismatic, inspiring managership of Luis Enrique, had a chance to defend the title. It's a rare achievement. Not many teams have managed to do, because it is very difficult. It's a Herculean task to once again go through the rigors of a Champions League season and again come out as the ultimate champions in back-to-back years. And PSG has done it. They could not do it for decades. They could not win a single European Cup for decades, in spite of having players like Mbappe, Messi, Neymar, Sergio Ramos, and Ibrahimovic, and so many superstars. But Luis Enrique came and he said, I don't believe in superstars, I believe in a superstar team. I believe in good players who would give their blood, sweat, and tears to build a team that would be invincible. And that's what he achieved last year, and this year he once again delivered it in the final. So, congratulations to PSG, commiserations to Arsenal. But let's talk a little bit about the match or the final from a qualitative perspective as a neutral. Let's be very honest, it was a disappointing final. It lacked the flair, the glamour, the dazzling magic footwork that one expected. That it lacked the goals, it lacked the creativity, it lacked the magical moment that you so much expected from a Champions League final. Especially after one was the two legs of a epic semi-final between Bayern Munich and PSG. One expected the final should go one step forward or ahead, but unfortunately it didn't happen, and to a large extent it has to be because of the strategies that both the teams followed, especially Arsenal. Arsenal has enough firepower and ability to create havoc in the opponent's goal. They have enough skills, enough resources. They have in Havertz, Saka, and players like even Martinelli and Gyökeres, who can really create havoc in opponent's goal. But unfortunately, Arsenal went with a different strategy. Mikel Arteta felt that they had to blunt the flair and the dazzling striking ability of PSG, because PSG has in players like Dembele, Fabian Ruiz, those kind of players, even Barcola and Due, those kind of, and of course the great Kivachi Barascoli, sorry, and those players who can really in a second change the momentum of a match and score from uncharacteristic positions, and they can score 3 to 4 goals in 30-40 minutes, and they can really seal the game. And perhaps somehow Arteta was getting too much distracted or too much affected by the last year's final, where PSG went on a rampage against Inter Milan to win it 5-0, and there Arteta must have felt that if he allows PSG that kind of room, that kind of space, and that kind of open space, then they could be 3-0, 4-0 off very soon, and then the match would be over within no time. So to blunt that attacking lineup, to blunt that flair, he followed a very, very strange kind of a tactics of trying to close down the PSG forwards and trying to do a very strict man marking and follow a compact defense line to frustrate them. And to be fair, he succeeded thoroughly. He succeeded in blocking and blunting the PSG attacking lineup, and the pace of people like Nuno Mendes or Barascali or Dembele were completely blunted because they didn't have any room to counter attack or surprise. But the price was also too heavy for Arsenal, because that meant Arsenal had to be all the time concentrating their resources in their own half. That meant they had only 28% of the possession for most part of the game. They had very little creativity left. They had very little room to maneuver. So that means almost their threat on PSG was reduced to null. And they were lucky that they could score a brilliant goal by Havertz in the 5th minute. And they thought that their strategy would be more successful now that they have taken a goal lead. But you know, when you get into ultra defense mode and ultra man marking and compact mode for so long in a game, at one point you would be paying a price against a team like PSG, and that's what happened. Barascali was fouled, and then they got a penalty, and Dembele did convert that goal. And after that, Arsenal had gone so much into a defensive mindset, they didn't know how to open up further, and then they were completely in that no-win situation of trying to block and block and block. And PSG for some time they tried, but after that they also felt the impact of fatigue and the exertion of a very tiring season, and so they also slowed down because they realized that Arsenal were not going to come after them. They were not going to offer any space or room, and they knew that if they would take further chances or further risk, then maybe at the fag end Arsenal could punish them because of the fatigue and the exertion that they were facing. So they were also comfortable in the extra time to let the game meander into a very tame draw, and they knew that their best chance of now winning would be a tie break, and tie break would be always a lottery. So both the teams would be knowing that one has to go back happy and one had to be devastated, and Arsenal paid the price. But at some point they would be feeling that they might have been responsible for that. They could have been more creative. They could have shown a little bit of flair. They had the players, they had the ability. They could have used their resources to attack a little more and put PSG under pressure. Then who knows, they might have succeeded in winning the match. But once they took that strange tactics of being ultra defensive, they took that risk, and then there was always a probability that in the tie break they would have to pay a price, and they paid the price. Any which way, PSG won. They defended the Champions League trophy. So congratulations to Luis Enrique and his brilliant team. Special congratulations to great stalwarts like Marquinhos and Hakimi, who have been real instrumental in giving them glory without being trying to be larger than life or trying to be very high profile. They have been such towering personalities, but they have been playing for the team without any ego, and they have been great in the defense. And then there have been people like Vitina, who has been tremendous in midfield, so creative, so skillful, and then their ultra aggressive and fast attacking lineup, which had scored 45 goals in this entire campaign, which is a monumental effort. And they have shown that they are really lethal when they have any space and room given to them. So congratulations to PSG, commiserations to Arsenal, and let's hope next year would bring out even much more excitement and thrill in the Champions League. Till then, goodbye. Thank you.